Well, we nailed what earnings were going to be for Palantir and Sofi, but the stocks literally did the exact opposite thing after double beats and great guidance. Why is this happening? And what do you do as a shareholder in both of these situations? Well, let's discuss the earnings specifically and answer those questions. And I have a big warning for you guys because I see something really bad on the horizon that's coming, and you guys have to be aware of it as Palantir and Sofi shareholders. Just make sure you like the video if you like getting the truth without the hype, and if you kind of like this style video here, we're kind of comparing and contrasting a couple of stocks that we all love. And if you want to be financially free and retire early, make sure you check out the pinned comment down there for my new channel, where that's all we talk about is that stuff. All right, so we actually discussed Sofi's earnings in a different video. Click it right up here if you want to get to that. That gets into all the nitty gritty of everything going on with Sofi. But with Palantir's earnings, they were great as well, but I'm not sure so great to justify this complete run-up while simultaneously seeing Sofi get completely beat back into the ground. I loved hearing Palantir had more demand than they could actually handle altogether. Trust me, that right there was awesome to hear, but I also know that kind of leans a little bit into the warning that I got coming to you guys for Palantir, because some people are going to get completely wrecked by what was said on the earnings call there and kind of how it gets taken. But the growth rate that they indicated was just right there on that threshold that we said they had to hit, kind of that minimum they had to hit in order to send the stock up. And that's exactly what they did, but it is still kind of short of the mark that they set for themselves a few years ago, which of course, if they hit the mark, if they put it up there at that 30%, that right there to me, I would be all on board with this huge move up. But because it didn't happen and we only got that 20% growth rate, I'm not sure that indicates this bullish of a move. Now, there still should be a bullish move up. I agree there. I'm not saying that. But I could also argue that Sofi's earnings were actually better in regards to the stock than what Palantir's were. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying you could make that argument, but clearly Wall Street felt differently and sent these two stocks in two completely different directions. So why are we seeing the two stocks go in completely different directions? Well, there are three things that explain exactly why this happened, and I'll tell you what to do in these particular situations for each one of these stocks. And of course, there is the warning that's still hanging out there that is going to absolutely destroy and wreck somebody's portfolio. So number one, Palantir is further in their journey than Sofi. Look, whether we like it or not, Palantir was profitable last year, about a year ago, and they have a full year of getting through this profitable journey and proving themselves out over the past year. Sofi is at the very, very, very beginning of that journey. They're not even close to where Palantir is, much less a stock like, Apple or Meta or any of those like that. Sofi just turned profitable, so we can't necessarily compare apples to apples specifically here because they're at two different parts of the journey. Now, when they were both pre-profitability, they were much closer in their journey, but better or worse, regardless of whether we like it or not, Palantir turned profitable a full year before Sofi did, and that right there makes a big difference in terms of how Wall Street treats that stock. Just go back and listen to Palantir's earnings call a year ago and listen to the current earnings call that we just got, and you'll see a huge difference in regards to virtually everything in regards to the earnings call, which we were actually listening to the earnings call live in real time with my group, which the Valentine's Day sale with the monthly memberships is live right now, and monthly memberships are going away after this because we have a new stock course, or actually it's just completely revamped from the ground up there. Just basically it's about triple the size of the old ones coming, and that way monthly memberships are going away. We'll only be selling annual memberships during that time. So make sure you check out the pinned comment down there and get your membership if you're interested in having a monthly membership before those go away. So number two, Sofi's multiple is still unclear. Is it a bank or is it fintech? And I know we talked about that previously. The point is, nobody knows at this stage where that's at. Now, a year from now, kind of like Palantir is in their journey, we can point to and kind of get closer to what that multiple is going to be. But right now, there's no way. There's just zero way to tell, is Wall Street going to treat it like a bank stock, or are they going to treat it like fintech? It was the same exact thing at the beginning of Palantir's journey, and right now, nobody knows. Big money is just now taking their first look at Sofi because they turned profitable. And it's not like they look one day and then decide to buy it the next day or anything else like that. They will look, and it could take 6 months. It could take a year. It could take longer than that before big money starts coming into the stock. And more importantly, we start seeing what multiple is Wall Street willing to pay for that stock. Unfortunately for us, Wall Street controls that answer. Not me, not you, not the management teams. Nobody does. Wall Street does, and we can debate whether that's fair or not all day long. It's a useless debate. The facts are, if Wall Street decides to treat it like a bank stock, we have a very, very different price and a very, very different everything for for SoFi versus if they treat it like fintech. Now, you guys know I personally think it's going to fall in between somewhere and they're going to create some sort of a hybrid multiple. But the reality is, I'm strictly guessing, and so is everybody else. Both of those options, or all three of those options, are somewhere in between on the scale there, are all basically equally going to happen. There's an equal chance that each one of those could happen. So we don't know the answer to that right now. And we probably won't have an answer for at least another year. So that's more uncertainty that is sending SoFi stock down in the meantime, as opposed to Palantir that is a year into that journey. And what multiple Wall Street's going to be willing to pay is kind of starting to come into focus. And number three, Palantir used the magic word a lot. I remember when Palantir turned profitable, AI was all the rage and it had a big run up. But then, of course, you realize that was strictly hype. And I'm not talking about with Palantir, just in general AI. It kind of died off for a little while. But over the past year, AI has really become the driving narrative, not with stocks like Palantir, but with the big seven, the magnificent seven, whatever the heck you want to call them. The point being, everybody has started emphasizing how important AI is, not just small players, but large players and mega players, more importantly. So that is something that they are actively looking for in the earnings call, and Palantir delivered that in spades. And remember, it's not like this is new for Palantir. They've been talking about AI for a very long time. So everybody's finally coming around and I guess probably believing the fact that, hey, that Karp guy, he's kind of weird and may not like him. But boy, he was way ahead of the curve on this AI stuff. It's clearly the future. Everybody else is jumping on board. So with the performance of Palantir and their earnings, it's kind of bringing in more money. And again, they said the magic word a bunch of times, which right, wrong, fair, or unfair seems to be what Wall Street wants to hear. SoFi really isn't a stock that you think of at the forefront of AI, although I'm sure they're using it. Do not get me wrong. I understand that. But they're not like a Palantir in regards to that. So, of course, they didn't get the same bump that Palantir got. So what do you do as a shareholder in each one of these stocks in these particular situations? And what the heck is scaring the heck out of me in regards to these stocks as well? Well, let's kind of start with SoFi first. If you believe in SoFi long-term, this is the exact scenario you want to have happen. You want a stock to have great earnings, great guidance, great everything, and Wall Street just to get dumb and beat it down for no good reason. That's so that way you can add shares cheaper. But keep in mind, in the end, share count is so much more important than your average. So, worrying about your average is irrelevant right now. If you're worried about, you had a $4 or $5 average and now you're going to move it up to, $7 or $8, or I guess it wouldn't be $7 or $8 if you had a 4 or 5 average. But the point being, if you're going to move it up to 6 or 7 by buying over the next few months into SoFi, you're worried about the wrong things, because if this is a $25 stock in the future, you're going to be very, very happy that you had 2 or 3 times the amount of shares if you continue to add heavily over the next few months versus keeping that, average low, but having a very, very small number of shares. So this is the exact scenario you want as a long-term buy and hold investor. You just got to look long-term and not worry about short-term stupidity from Wall Street. But Palantir is kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, right? I mean, it had a huge, huge bump up after earnings. And more importantly, I can't say it's trading cheaply anymore. It is absolutely trading a little bit rich. Not crazy, not out of control or anything like that, but it's definitely trading a little bit of rich, which of course is creating a lot of FOMO out there for you guys. Maybe not everyone, but some folks are definitely feeling the FOMO on this stock that, hey, it's getting ready to run away from me and everything else. But this is where doing the work and having your plan is so important. I know you guys hate that I say it, but I mean, tell me, what multiple did you have out there for Palantir at this time, and where is it trading at in relation to that? I know right now on a forward basis, it's trading at about an 80 or so, which isn't terrible. I understand the current one is bad, but whenever I look out future, and a lot of times with high growth stocks, I kind of like to look at that, forward PE a lot more than I do the current PE. That to me, when I look forward, it's not that grossly overvalued, but to me, it is a little bit overvalued based upon the multiple that I've set for it. You guys have to set your own multiples. You've got to set your own plan. And where are you at within that plan? Do you have all the shares you want? Do you need more shares? Are you feeling FOMO in the first place, meaning you can't keep emotions out? And why weren't you buying prior to this when it was at a much cheaper price? I mean, I don't know. What was keeping you from buying at 17 versus today, whenever it's up over $20? If both those answers are kind of emotional, kind of fear over here that it could go lower and some things like that, and now obviously you're feeling FOMO up here, then you need to just simply DCA to take emotions out of it. There's nothing wrong with a DCA. DCA beats traders 99.99% of the time. So DCA is a great strategy for the vast majority of folks out there. Put you well ahead of Wall Street and everybody else out there that's trading in and out of positions and trying to call the tops and the bottoms and all that other garbage like that. You're beating all those folks just by simply executing a simple DCA. So maybe that's a strategy you need to consider and implement, so that way you can just buy when it's lower, and then when earnings happen and it's great, you've already bought shares there in order to round out your position. Yes, you're rounding them out with higher price shares at that stage, but in the long run, it won't matter. It's about share count. Now, let's talk about the warning for each stock. For SoFi, the warning is this: you have to completely remove yourself from the noise, from the narrative, from everything, from the price action, all of it. Ignore all of it in regards to SoFi. Do not pay a lick of attention to it. Only listen to the earnings call and the guidance, and more importantly, what the numbers were. That is it. Ignore everything else and just continue to execute your plan. The same exact thing happened to Palantir. We talked about it in the earnings preview for SoFi. We talked about, hey, we could see a Palantir scenario here where we know they're going to give us profitability. We know it's going to be a great quarter. We know guidance is going to be good, but Wall Street may choose to just beat it down again anyways for no real good reason. So I know there are folks out there, and there's a lot of negativity out there, who feel like this is a dumb stock for me to own. I need to get out of this stock. I don't want to own it anymore. And you really have to ignore that noise and evaluate and not fall for that trap, because we saw the same exact trap with Palantir, and look at where we are just a year later. Look at the difference from $7 after earnings beat down, after they turned profitable, all the way up to well over 20 now in just a year, basically tripling up your money in just a year. That right there, that scenario, I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but that's kind of what you're looking at there. So don't make the mistake of selling out a position at the lows whenever everything in terms of fundamentals of the company are awesome, awesome, awesome all the way around. Now for Palantir, my warning is very different. Now, I called it live in our live stream as it was going down. My biggest fear was, with how good the earnings were going, and more importantly, the crazy price action we were seeing in the after hours, my biggest concern was, and that people will start falling for, is the pumpers are going to be out in force, pumping Palantir to the moon and saying all these ridiculous price targets and all this other craziness. And we all know how that ends in the end. And people are going to get burned on Palantir if it runs up too much too quick with all that noise going on. We got a 20% growth rate from Alex for the next year, not 200% growth rate for the next year from Alex and team there. But yet some of the price targets that I've seen from some new, price targets that people are putting out there for the new price target for Palantir, they basically need a 200% growth rate in order to justify that price. And this happened the last time Palantir had a massive run up. Basically, during that hype cycle of 2021, I don't remember if it lasted all the way into 2022 or not. But the point being, the last time that happened, people were lining up with their pretty little DCF models that showed that Palantir was undervalued at $35 per share way back then. It was clearly not a $35 stock back then, and a ton of people got burned. And today, it's still not a $35 stock as of today. Now, I think they get there, obviously. But in regards to valuation, to me, we're not even close to 35 here, much less the $50 that I've seen out there, or the $100 that I've seen out there, or somebody was even predicting $1,000. I understand it was a few years into the future, but still, there's no way to get there in any reasonable fashion in regards to the stock price at this point. Stick to the fundamentals, not hype stuff like this, or you're going to get burned whenever Wall Street corrects the hype back down. Ignore the noise to the positive. Just like with SoFi, you have to ignore the negative noise. They both kill your investments in the end, and that's my big fear with what's going on with both these stocks right now. And if you want to be able to talk to me directly about this in my DMs or on our live Q&As, make sure you check out the pinned comment down there and take advantage of the sale for my group that ends on Valentine's Day, where you get to do exactly that. You can see all my buy and sell alerts in real time, my watch list complete with price targets, take 5 courses for free. Guys, there's so much in there, and there's so much more coming to the group. The best 6, 7, and 8-figure Discord out there helping you out as well. Make sure you check out the pinned comment and see if a membership's right for you. And click this video here if you want to see exactly what I'm buying in this market. And click here to see my exact plan for this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.